Built for builders, from beginners to pros, this is where great backyards begin. Welcome to the Ultimate Deck Podcast, your source for backyard building tips, product breakdowns, and pro advice from the front lines of the industry. Here are your hosts, Shane Chapman and Wade Laurent.
Welcome back to the Ultimate Deck Podcast. Wade and Shane here with an exciting announcement. Is that fair to say?
I'm excited.
Okay. New format for the podcast. We've been off the rocker for quite some time and haven't put anything out. And maybe we got less passionate about doing it because it was such a commitment.
Maybe.
And there was always hit and miss on people as to whether they loved the banter at the start or they didn't like the banter at the start. And anyways, the point of the podcast was always supposed to be to help people in their backyards. And so we're reformatting this podcast now to be a little bit more succinct.
I think that's a good idea.
Shoot for 10 to 15 minute episodes and just try to deliver the value in those 10 to 15s. Not to say we won't have the odd episode where we might have a guest or something. We'll go a little bit longer. But the point now is to do a quick 10, 15 minute episode, talk about products, tips, tricks, ideas, those kinds of things to help homeowners and interesting topics for contractors as well. Just industry stuff in the backyard.
Yeah, certainly. We can deliver all of the value in less of the time.
Out all the crap.
So let's do it.
Let's get after it. Okay, so the first topic for today in the new relaunched version.
Woo! Pay attention. It's going to be over quick.
Of the Ultimate Deck Podcast. We're here to talk about deck drainage systems. And so this is a very common question that, you know what? I was going to say that homeowners ask inside our stores all the time, but also that I see get asked in the Facebook groups, even from other contractors quite a bit, because not every contractor has experience doing a lot of these. And so when the opportunity comes up, they're always looking for advice from guys who have, because there's a lot of systems out there.
Yeah, and I think this would be a really valuable podcast or episode for home builders.
Sure.
You know, and if you're in the process of building a house and you want to talk to your home builders about something different, these are alternatives to a vinyl sheet decking, right? Everybody's heard of Duradek or WeatherDeck or Deck Tech or whatever it is, but it's a vinyl sheet decking.
Yeah.
These are solutions to prevent you from having to use that.
Yeah, that's
if you don't want to. If
that's
you don't
certainly
want
the
to
most well known. Like if you went and asked 100 people, how do you keep the space beneath your deck dry? If probably 90 of them would say, I don't know.
Sure.
But the 7 that did know would probably say, oh, that Duradek stuff, right? Like linoleum stuff. And yes, that's probably the most common way to do it, especially in the world of home builders, like you said. That's just kind of their default. So, and it is an option. Essentially, you're framing a deck the same way you would with any deck, but then you're topping it with 3/4 inch tongue and groove select plywood, fir plywood, patching it, getting it nice and smooth, and then rolling out and gluing down vinyl rolls, vinyl sheet. Linoleum is essentially what it is.
Yeah.
And so it's fine. It serves the purpose of keeping the deck dry below. The things we don't like about it is the aesthetic isn't the greatest. I don't think anybody's looking for that look of just a slab of vinyl sheet.
They certainly have made some changes where they have like a vinyl plank looking product. So
sure.
There's opportunity for it to look a little bit better, but
better than what it used to just look like pool liner.
Yeah.
Like pebbly looking, like whatever.
Yeah.
So true, it's gotten a little bit nicer looking, but still not the look that people are actually after. But the bigger issues are, one, you have to build a pretty aggressive slope on it. I think it's typically like 1 inch over 8 feet or 1 inch over 6 feet on some of them. And that's an aggressive slope when you're standing or sitting on it that you can feel that's not like, you can feel the tilt in that.
Right. So you build your deck 12 feet out.
Yeah. And it drops
a couple inches down. Right.
Yeah. So you can feel that. And that makes your railing install a little bit trickier too. Do you install your railing posts plumb, or do you follow the slope of the deck, like 90 degrees to the floor of the deck or whatever? There's also seams on the deck. Often if it's more than 6 feet deep, you're going to have a seam on it. Those seams need to be heat welded. Sometimes those, I should say often over its lifespan, those will have some separations.
Yeah, that's just your fail point. It's your most typical or your most likely spot for problem.
Yeah. And we do often get people coming in looking for ways to patch it. And yes, you can patch it. You can go heat weld to patch over it, but it looks like a patch. You can't hide the patch.
Yeah.
The thing I've heard you tell people often before, that I always think is a good point too, is like you're walking on the rain management system, the traffic, the dropped knife on the way to the barbecue, the hot frying, whatever it is, when it hits the waterproofing itself as well, not just the decking. So the chance of leaks may be higher in a system like that. When it's newly installed and perfectly laid down, it's very, very effective.
Very effective.
Water management.
I talk about chairs often. So if you're in your chair or you're sliding your table around, it's always like, I always worry about that, because if you don't have your felt protector on the outdoor furniture and you hook the edge of that heat weld, you may rip it.
Yeah.
There's no warranty on that.
Yeah.
It's like you damaged it. So
anyways, so it's one option.
There's some pros to it. Pros are fast install, likely the least expensive option as far as it goes, and it serves a purpose. It is waterproof.
For sure.
That's what it needs to do.
Functionality is there.
That's right.
Aesthetic, maybe not. Function is there.
Yeah. And then the cons on that, it's like I really dislike unlevel railing, and it doesn't look that good. It's kind of slippery.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Next up, we're going to talk. So, like I said, there's a lot of systems out there. We're going to kind of focus on like 3 or 4.
Sure.
Another system we actually stock is called Dexerdry, Dexer Dry, and it's a different take on this whole thing because it allows you to use grooved composite decking. Grooved is in the groove on the side, not on the bottom. And it's essentially just a rubber gasket, a finned rubber gasket that gets compressed into the grooves of the deck boards and then compressed between the deck boards. And so the fins on this gasket go in the groove, and then like they're kind of like T-shaped. So the 2 horizontal sides go into the grooves, the vertical sides just squish between the boards. You install it with a compression tool, and it essentially turns any grooved composite decking into a flat, drainable surface as well. And so it's a really cost-effective way as well. Now you're controlling your cost a little bit because you could choose an entry-level composite. You could choose a premium composite. Doesn't matter. Just need any composite with a groove. You do have to buy the profile that's made for your brand of decking. So it's not the same profile. It is custom profiled.
That's right. Yep.
So if you're doing Fibron Good Life, you got to get the Fibron composite one. If you're doing Decorators, the Decorators one, the Trex one, and so on.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that. It's a pretty effective system. It does require a slope as well, a little bit of a slope as well.
Yes.
Contrary to popular belief, you do not need to turn your deck boards and drain like perpendicular to the house. They can stay parallel. I know that was something that earlier on we were like, do you have to do that? Because that would be terrible. You have to change the whole way you frame your deck. You don't, but you do have to have a bit of a slope.
We have to have slopes still, right?
Yeah.
So now your deck is sloped left to right instead of house to yard.
Yeah, and so it's also a little bit trickier to do. There's a way. They're a little bit trickier to do like picture frames. And so not impossible, just you have to pay attention to what you're doing now. It's a little different than if you were installing a composite deck without that. So there's things to be aware of, but it's a fairly lower cost option, the little rubber gaskets.
Face fastening of all your decking.
Face fastening, that was the main thing.
So there's that's your big minus, right? For me, I don't like that. Everybody wants a hidden fastener system. And if you're using Dexerdry,
for sure,
that's you're fastening from the top.
You're using the groove that the fastener is supposed to go in, so it's gone now.
Yeah.
So, and you can plug and hide those.
Certainly you can.
It still looks fairly good, but it's a lot more work to face screw it and plug it.
But if you're doing it yourself, it's a DIY project, and you want to, and you don't mind it, and you have some weekends to put plugs in. It's like, well, then go for it.
Certainly. Yep.
That'll work.
Yeah. So it's a cool system. It's a little bit different than what else is on the market. Next one we'll talk about is Trex RainEscape. This might be one of the more well-known ones that's not vinyl sheet.
Sure.
Just because it is a Trex product. And so it's a system of troughs and downspouts. And there's not really a whole lot of components to it. It's fairly simple. This one does have to go on before the decking goes on. Essentially, you frame your deck, then you put the Trex RainEscape system on, then you put your decking over top of it. So to your point about the Duradek, now at least we're not walking and having any wear happening on the rain management system. It is below. No pitch required. I think this is a gigantic benefit for this. You can build your deck perfectly flat, which I think is great.
Yes.
Because the trough system between the joists is what's going to give the pitch. And so it gets these troughs, they roll out, they come in a rolled up tube, essentially.
Yeah.
So easy to ship across the country or across the continent too. And you essentially pull it tight at the house, and then you droop the trough as it goes out towards the end of your deck. Either 12 or 16 feet long, you can get these things. And when you get to the end of that, there's a bucket, a scupper, a downspout thing that the trough will run all the water into this bucket that then has a downspout extension on the bottom of it, essentially, that a regular downspout will screw onto.
Yep.
And it goes into a regular gutter.
Eaves
trough.
trough. Yeah.
Eaves trough for Canadians, gutter for Americans, I found out recently.
Yeah.
So it drains into that, and then versus the previous two systems, they just drain off the side of the deck. This one can drain underneath the deck into an eaves trough, and then you can direct that water wherever you like.
Yeah, and so I think of the systems, I prefer this one. I probably prefer this one the most for a few reasons. One, I think the install is actually really well thought out, the way Trex has put this together. So I've had people ask me, well, how do you know how much of a pitch to create? Well, it's already sort of factored into the trough system that they have, because there's a line on the one side, and you will nail it or you'll staple it down to a joist, just following the crease or the pattern that's in the trough. So one side is fixed and the other side has a gradient kind of to help you create that proper slope that you need. Everything is hidden, which is my favorite. The deck is level. I think that if it's done properly, like, your chance of failure is very, very low. Your lumber will stay dry, so you get an extended life out of your lumber, as opposed to other systems where the lumber itself will actually get wet because it drains through on the bottom. So there's just a lot of pros for this Trex one. Some of the things to be aware of and cautious of is that if you don't allow composite decking to breathe on the underside, you may void the warranty. And that's going to happen. You could be because you're putting your composite decking right on top of your rain management system. Yeah. And there's no clearance underneath like a lot of the manufacturers will ask for. Yeah. Trex included.
Yeah, exactly. Ironic there, but there are other brands out there that you don't require that. Any like PVC decking's usually fine, moisture shield is fine, decorators is fine. Stuff that doesn't have organic wood fiber in it is completely fine. But yeah, to your point about install, it's fairly easy. Roll your trough, staple your buckets in, roll your trough out, staple it down, get it nice and tight, tape the seams with butyl tape. Yeah. And that's all there really is to it. There are some other SKUs like a wall tape, like a foam compression wall tape to put up against the wall to try to stop leaks behind the ledger board if you're not able to flash at the time, kind of thing. Yep. There's like 4x4 post sleeves, kind of flash the post bases on a wood mounted post. So there's a few things in there, but for the most part, it's like 3 or 4 items, and some butyl caulk as well.
Yep, that's right.
That you want to dump over too. So the key is to make sure that your fasteners then that you're using are going through the tape through into the joist. The only failures we have personally ever seen in the years and years and years of, like, it's probably been about a decade since I've been selling and or using it. I've only ever heard of 2 issues in person, and they were both the result of, one was a result of the contractor using a Tiger Claw installation gun, which it specifically says don't use those. You can't shoot the clip in and it'll tear the tape. Yep. But the problem wasn't even the fastener. It's the problem they missed the joist on a couple, and it just shot a scrael through and didn't go into the joist. And the second one, I can't remember who it was specifically, same issue. They missed the joist on a couple clips. And if you miss the joist, you don't get any compression between the clip and the joist to squeeze the butyl around it. So it just like it eventually leaks. So if you install carefully, it's a pretty reliable system. I have heard online people say like, oh, I've done it and it leaks. And it's like, okay, sure.
It can.
Maybe legit, or maybe something else is going on. I don't know.
If you put enough of the product in, I think the idea of like stapling, caulking, next layer, tape, fastener, I think I have a hard time believing that it would leak if you did the install properly.
Yeah, and this isn't something that's meant to be going over a finished interior kitchen.
No.
This is a dry space for outside. So the odd drip, like, you can't expect 110% dry space. It's not for that. But.
The other thing that I like is it protects if you decide to do lighting or speakers or any of the, heaters or that stuff on the underside of your deck. It's like none of that product is exposed to moisture. Correct. I think that's really nice.
Another thing some people will do out there, I wasn't planning on talking about it, but some people would just buy their own EPDM membrane, like pond liner, and make their own Trex RainEscape system, essentially, right? They kind of make their own baffles and little downspouts and make their own troughs and cut their own stuff. If you're willing to go buy rolls of EPDM and trim it and put the work in, you can save money that way.
Absolutely.
And some people swear ends up being a better install, but it's just like, it's a lot more work. It's not pre-done for you, but you can explore with that as well. Yep. And then we've got the category of systems that kind of go underneath the joist. So everything up to this point is like stopping water from ever getting through. It's going off the side or being collected and dumped out somewhere. Then you've got systems such as like TimberTech dry space, Haven underdeck, and ZipUP Ceilings, which is I won't say it's the one we stock. It's the one we decided was, when we did research out there, the one that got the most positive feedback. So we went for that system, but they're all very similar. And so they screw to the bottom of the joist, or they might get shimmed out from the joist a bit, but all similarly attached to the bottom. So the water goes through the deck boards, through the gap in the deck boards. Correct, it does run down potentially the wood. So it can get wet, or will get wet.
Yep.
And then it gets caught in panels that are kind of suspended below the joists. And then same thing as Trex RainEscape, it gets funneled to the end of the deck with a pitch, dumped into an eaves trough or a gutter, run out wherever you want.
Right.
The really great thing about these systems is a couple things. One, they also give you a finished soffit underneath your deck. So you don't look up and see lumber and drooping RainEscape troughs. You see whatever finish you selected. It could be a wood grain finish.
Yep.
It could be just a textured black or white or gray finish. So it looks a hell of a lot nicer, and it's kind of like 2-in-1 when you're installing it. It's like done and seamless. It can still support lights and ceiling fans and everything else. There's ways to do it. So it's a really good system that way. Does cost more upfront.
Yeah, but I think if you start to factor in doing aluminum soffit and fascia, or if you're going to do a tongue and groove pine or cedar, whatever it is, some sort of paneling underneath, if you do the surface mount system and then have to do your like the soffit and fascia, you need to factor that in.
Install twice. Yeah.
You have to, right? Before you can start to compare them equally. And so, and I don't think people do that. I think people are like, oh, RainEscape's only this much and ZipUP's this much. Well, RainEscape's way cheaper. And then 4 months later, you're like, well, that wasn't way cheaper.
To pay it. Yeah.
Right. So,
be aware of that. One other thing I like about that system is, so a couple things. One, you can build your deck perfectly level again because the pitch is created by the paneling. But another thing I like is they're accessible and cleanable. And no other system we've talked about yet so far is. Some of them you don't have to, like the top ones that don't let anything through, you don't have to worry about. But Trex RainEscape, for example, if you had a lot of traffic on your deck that was like a lot of dirt gets hauled onto your deck or small pebbles, that stuff may get kind of caught in the troughs and can be difficult to kind of clean out. The ZipUP systems, the panels actually pop out. So in the event that you do have seeds from a tree or a lot of needles from a...
It's like, as you're mentioning that, I'm thinking to myself, oh, if you're at a lake and you have sand all the way up to your stairs and then you go up the stairs, I just know that sand would track up the stairs and onto the deck. And so if I had, if I was on a lake property and had lots of trees around or had lots of sand around, I don't know that a Trex RainEscape system would be ideal. Yeah. Probably.
The example I always use too is like, what if you're sitting on your deck and shopping on Amazon, pull your credit card out and drop it through the through the deck boards or something. Yeah. Like, I know it's probably a very uncommon scenario, but in the event something like that happens, drop a key down there or whatever, you can pull the panels out and actually get at what has fallen through. Yeah. Whereas the other systems you can't.
And the underneath system is a retrofit. Yes. So all the other, like the previous ones we mentioned, that's not really retrofitting. I guess you could use Dexerdry because you're going to redo the surface of the deck maybe, but you'd have to redo the surface.
Yeah, this last category is the only one that you can do on an existing deck that's already done.
Yeah, that's right.
Tearing anything apart. Yep. You can just add it on. And the thing I like about ZipUP is it doesn't matter what the joist spacing is. I know when we used to carry TimberTech dry space, it's like that had to be installed on like the channels that go onto the joists. So if your joist spacing wasn't perfectly 12 or 16 inch on center, you had to have a bunch of mucking around to make it work. The ZipUP system, you're not attaching to the joist. There's like a whole shimming system, so it hangs below. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, because your shimming system runs perpendicular to your joist, and so it makes no difference at all. So, anyways,
so that's deck drainage systems in a nutshell. There's kind of those four main categories. Do some Googling. There's some more information on our website at tuds.ca about this stuff as well. If you have any questions, shoot us a message on Instagram or something. We'd be happy to help.
Yeah, and maybe challenge your home builder. Like it's probably not that they don't want to do this. It's probably that they don't know it even exists.
Most of the time, they just aren't aware of
just options. Let them know.
For sure. Okay, until next week, take it easy.